Yeah, I don't like AI art, which isn't art in the first place, or anything that is generated by generative AI. And actually, it might not be a generative artificial intelligence, because there isn't any intelligence with these in the first place. They may be add language models, maybe large language models, which generate image, videos or something else. But for an easier term, I'll use generative AI. I guess I'll be with generative AI, and no, I won't call them artists. Even as AI artists, it's like calling someone from microphase what is a chef with prompters, because it seems generative AI is trying to replace human creativity. And to some degree, making these videos are creative things that I'm doing. No, I won't be using image from generative AI for this video or anything from generative AI. But then, what I thought, oh, wait, I can just use generative AIs for a thumbnail. Now the image is but a tool in itself. Okay, in actuality, it's copyright infringement. Basically, piracy, which is done by corporations against internet creators, and then with which they profit. And of course, prompters are profiting with piracy by using generative AI. And you know what? AI defenders are comparing generative AI, copying parts of multiple images and combining them into one to almost getting inspired by art from different artists. Those aren't the same. Sure, humans are inspired by it. Most of the time, humans draw on their own. However, the generative AI can generate a perfect copy. Then what it is in that case if AI generates a perfect copy? Sure, there are humans that trace an art, which gets called out when they are found out. And I don't know if there are tracers that combine multiple traces into one. Wait, didn't I give tracers an idea, didn't I? Ignore that then. It's probably too late. Then I need to hope that this video doesn't get traction. By the way, when I attempted to get into driving, I started with the command and talked about tracing of course, but I couldn't do that and didn't know what tracing meant. Because I tried driving as a teenager, but having the command image on a phone, which was neither iOS or Android but still was touchscreen, as reference. And looking at them and drawing as close as possible to reference image, which in a way could have counted as stealing. But it's not the same when it takes the time and effort to draw from a reference image. Like I wasn't able to draw a perfect copy of words, which will still take the time, especially without tracing the two. Wait, that's the right way to say it. And from which I didn't profit. Okay, I did make a video about these drawings, but with the low traction to this channel, I didn't profit from this video. And it was only for a personal reason, trying to learn drawing. Now about comparing it to piracy. Now that corporations are doing piracy, especially against independent creators, it's trying to piracy and profiting using with it. Of course, it's rules for them and not for us, for corporations. Sure, I dabble in piracy, and I'm profiting with it, at least not correctly. Wait, this reminded me that anime YouTuber also piracy to profit, which okay, you got me there, but it's under Spotify because anime wasn't easily accessible in the West, which might be the case to this day. Anime streaming service. From what I have heard, animators are getting little money from streaming service. It's maybe buying merchandise to support animators and of course original story authors, plus original stories source. Buying original stories source is to support the story author. Sure, I pirate games to make videos of them, which doesn't get traction, because they aren't available for purchase officially. Buying the content? Money wouldn't go to developers, at least not directly from me. Then again, if the game would be available still to this day, the money still might not go to the originators, because they might not pay as a company for fundraiser or another. And those are games from AAA game companies, avoiding pirating indie games, even if indeed they're allowed to pirate game. So I could make video on it. But with that, I haven't played those games. And of course I mainly pirate out games, because new games probably won't run on the laptop. Then again with piracy I could check it out if the game runs on or not on the laptop. But I'm kinda busy with other stuff. Sorry about that ramble, but maybe it was needed to show piracy by independent person can be against corporations, which doesn't sell old games anymore. And now, corporations are stealing from correct active independent creators. Sure, still there are also independent persons pirated from other independent person, but that's your point there. If generative AI doesn't infringe on copyright, then fivefold someone from OpenAI, maybe it's CEO, CIO, or creator, or someone else, didn't like the DeepSeek make those stolen in air codes that explain that. You can't without any strawman arguments. Then both generative AI and copyright infringed on someone else's work. Sure, generative AI could be used as a tool for accessible and accessible for people with disabilities. But is it really used like that by most of the generative AI community? I don't think so, and generative AI doing also the work in AirCodes doesn't count it as an assistance tool. Other uses input words. It's an accessibility tool for people with disabilities. Which again, it varies in what way it is used, but also it could vary by disability by the person. If you really want to get into doing art, you will find a way which isn't a generative AI doing all of the work. Like there are artists who don't have hands and are learning to draw with their feet, which may not go for digital art. Then again, if you spend money on generative AI, then maybe there is a perfect device that connects to a computer that helps your feet to draw digitally. Okay, which I didn't find, and I mostly found people drawing traditional art with their feet. Well, or at least that's idea, or maybe still drawing. Double can be used to draw in digital using your feet. I only found one source claiming they draw it digitally with their feet, which is from Dicted without a proof. About people who are blind, which is on a scale, of course, from what I have heard, and it's a scale they take them for it. You might have got me that, but wasn't paid when deaf and made music. Okay, wasn't deaf from birth, but he still made music while he was deaf. You might think it's not a good example, because they aren't the same thing. In theory, for music, hearing is needed, but bad often did that without hearing music. In that case, you could do that while you are blind. Which may not be possible for a digital art, but there might be other accessible settings for blind people, which might help them to draw digital art. I said might. Actually, I wonder if there are blind artists. Be right with alcohol sessions about them. Oh, there are. What a surprise. Not. So their disability, blindness, didn't stop them doing art. So these reasons seem to be just an excuse to be lazy and get immediate results. However, if you don't want to get into art but want someone or something to make an image for your needs, whatever they are, and if you can spend money on generative AI, then you could spend money to commission someone. However, if you can spend money for a premium or generative AI, then you could find upcoming artists doing commissions for free, which might be artists selling themselves, or whatever the term it was, or something like that they are getting less. When there is art free, then it's worth something like that. Like how I did for the channel account, and I had credited it YouTube channel, but when I was thinking about changing the account and YouTube changing channel layout, I removed the link. But also on that channel, she weren't active. So if I find the links, then I credit it in this video. Well, I found the links, but from what I have seen, she isn't active on social media account. Well, Instagram is protected, so what is then is then. And maybe I'll change the channel icon after this video, which maybe I forgot while making this video rather. Or maybe I also use it as a pre-roll or something like that for this video. Now, here's some other reasons why I don't like generative AI, for which I don't think I can make separate chapters or sections for the video. I guess it's mainly that generative AI can generate image or anything else in less time than how much time it takes artists to make their own art. For example, generative AI can generate multiple images in the same time how it takes an artist to draw just one image. And with it, the generative AI is flooding the market, or whatever the term is. So then, no one is starting, and then the actual artists have the time to get freedom to do art. In a way, it seems AI might replace artists with this.
It's for fun and expressing themselves.
Should go and do it for fun, and why you are making or aiming a Patreon or anything like that, where you are putting or will put generative AI image behind a PNG file. If you would do it for fun, then you wouldn't be putting generative AI content behind PNG file. Maybe I'm neutral on the environment is in. I do what I can do to lessen impacts on it, like I am not littering, like rich people who still fly with their private planes should do things that lessen impact on the environment to significant amount. So the generative AI might be also impacting the environment in a bad way. So then it should be useless. And that's another reason why I don't like generative AI. And maybe from low sample size it might not be a big impact, but if everyone would generate 10 images at the same time, then it wouldn't be a big impact. Sure, if I could drive, I would be getting a casual or diesel car because I want to drive with manual transmission, which isn't in electric cars. And probably whatever emissions there are, then it's probably around the same emissions while cars are being made. And maybe there's no significant difference in emissions while driving each car. Generative AI gets compared to other automatic tools. Okay, I gave a point that because of these things people have lost their jobs. And maybe that's why I don't have a job. Yeah, no, I don't have a job nearby that I'm capable of doing. However, those jobs will be maintained instead of creative jobs. In previous cases, at least for most of them, maintained jobs got replaced by mundane jobs. And with it, this might lead to the mundane future where humans are only allowed to do mundane stuff for living, while generative AI does also creative things that will rot consumers' brains. Okay, there are humans creators that are making brain rot content, some of which might already start using generative AI to make brain rot content, or will go and host generative AI to do so. With generative AI, you really aren't getting into doing art. Like you don't know what progress is to make in art. And with it you won't have knowledge that you will be able to transfer into other art formats. There were some that compared taking photos to generative AI. It's not the same. Main input, other than writing words, is needed to take photos, and it isn't simple just having good results from one photo. It will be the same for generative AI, but it's still too fast of a process. The generative AI that is. Otherwise, everyone will lose the market when everyone is bound with a camera. Professional photographers do understand to get a good photo. Having a good composite shot, taking multiple photos of the same object, having the right settings for the camera and other stuff. So that's not even a conversation to generative AI. Also with generative AI we might be getting closer to that internet theory becoming more true. Mainly because it's possible to post multiple generative AI posts in a short time period. And with it, it might become more hard to find almond creators. So, yeah, and it is currently being used just spamming generative AI image because there are immediate results. I don't like it. Immediate results I meant as it's faster than how Almond makes art. And most of its community, or at least for Arcelot's tests, haven't picked up pencil or opened a digital painting software before and then asked generative AI to profit. Which was mostly, of course, about image generative AI. There also are voice generative AI, for of course stolen voices from actual people. But also there are other problems with it that are the same with image generative AI and maybe different problems. Like I already have problems with TikTok not paying enough to a voice provider for its text-to-speech function and avoiding using text-to-speech function when I was trying to upload video on TikTok, and avoiding watching those TikTok videos that uses it when I use TikTok. And of course I'm afraid of a future where corporations and rich people have fun by having AI replacing human creativity, and poor people need to do mundane tasks or be slaves to live just to do work. You shouldn't be living just to do work. You should work so you can live with freedom, keeping morality in check. And of course, neither side should receive death threats. Like there are some that act like they are either against generative AI or pro-generative AI, and then send death threats to the opposite side. No one shall be getting death threats, and no one shall be making them. And of course, both sides shall be distancing themselves from these kind of people. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave likes on it, subscribe and comment. See you next time.